Minister, in recent years there's been a significant rise in cocaine consumption, with Gardaí and drugs counsellors' current reports stating that drugs are available in every rural village and town in Ireland. The cliché of cocaine as the drug of choice for the wealthy young elite is long out of date. It has evolved in recent years and is now being used regularly by all classes across society. The epidemic that has soared to new heights and is now being felt in every community, every sports club, every school and every parish in rural Ireland, every parish in my constituency. Last year, one GAA star and recovering cocaine addict said that drugs are so readily available now in rural Ireland that it's literally like getting a bag of sweets. Another said it can be ordered and obtained as quickly as a pizza delivered to your door. Families are being torn apart. Parents are losing their children. Children are losing their parents. The epidemic in drugs use is fueling the epidemic of abuse and antisocial behaviour in our towns and villages. In County Wexford and in all towns of County Wexford, Enniscorthy, Gorey, New Ross and Wexford, business and retail staff and customers are despairing at the level of open drug use and dealing, shoplifting, fighting, open brawls, all in broad daylight on the streets of our towns. People are afraid to walk the streets during the day, let alone at night time. Yesterday I met a person who told me they readily remember walking down the streets of Wexford at 3 a.m. after a night out with no fear. They now worry about walking down the streets of Wexford at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Only a few days ago there was a very violent dispute in broad daylight on the Wexford Quayfront. This follows a similar incident only last month, which saw two young men attacked on the street. A short number of weeks prior to that, a woman was pushed to the ground and robbed of her social welfare money as she came from the post office. People are afraid, genuinely afraid, and feel strongly that little action is being taken to address the issues. County Wexford has experienced a 9.5% increase in population from last census of 2016. We're not seeing anything like that in the equivalent increase of Garda numbers to police our communities, rather a lack of resources to An Garda Síochána. A report from the Policing Authority regarding the issue of public order training and resources is due in June, which I welcome, but it's time for a response from government in relation to rural policing. The Coastal Watch programme, launched by Gardaí to curb the threat of drugs being landed along the coastline, is welcome. But I've just come from the Public Accounts Committee, Minister, with the Department of Defence. We have 6 ships, 6 naval vessels that have cost the state €500 million.
Thank you.
4.
We're out of time, Deputy. I'm sorry, we're out of time.
By the quayside.
We're out of time. Minister.
For raising this very serious issue. Particularly, I want to address the issue of drugs and antisocial behaviour first, and I come from that with some degree of knowledge myself. I chaired up to very recently for 10 years the Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force in North Dublin, and I've seen at first hand the damage that illegal illicit drugs can do, and indeed legal drugs such as alcohol can do to our young people and not so young people as well. And what we have to ensure that the approach towards education with regard to our young people around drugs and drug use, to actually inform them and to educate them to make the right decisions. The days of the guard going into the school showing drug paraphernalia and saying don't do this are gone. Our young people are clever, they're intelligent, they will make decisions based on the information that they have. And yes, we have seen an increase in drug use and an increase in the prevalence and availability of drugs. And not just cocaine. I think one of the most dangerous drugs out there is synthetic cannabis, where people believe that cannabis itself is simply the cannabis leaf. No more is it that. It is laboratory produced and is about 100 times stronger than what one would have thought a normal joint would have been in the past, and has really bad negative effects, particularly on young people, particularly up to the age of 25. So We need to continue to resource our regional drugs and alcohol task forces, our local drugs task forces, to provide the family supports that are required, to provide the education to our young people to enable them to make the right decisions. And I've seen how that can work very well on the ground. Now, the instances that you've raised in relation to antisocial behaviour in Wexford are truly shocking, and I'm sure are shocking to your constituents as well. And we have seen from time to time increases in that type of behaviour. That's why it is so important that we continue to support our Gardaí that are there, support them that they can carry out more visible community policing. I'll use an example in my own constituency in Swords, where the community policing unit is now back in place, and we need to see that across the country, because that's where the Gardaí can actually be proactive. Sorry?
You're not asking the question.
Do you want to sit up there? So I'm trying to answer Deputy Murphy, if that's okay, because it's a very serious issue and a very serious point. You should know that as a former Junior Minister for Health as well. What I'd say to you, Deputy Murphy, it's not just a commentary. We need to do more in that space. That's why we're recruiting more Gardaí. We've got to ensure that we've health professionals there on the front line as well, particularly on the education side through our schools. What I was trying to say before I was interrupted was in relation to community policing. That has to be the core of what we're doing, and we're seeing community policing units being set up again and re-established right the way across the country, so we can have proactive policing as well as reactive, where we're supporting our existing communities that are out there. I'll come back in supplementary to the other points.
Well, I think the reality, Minister, is that prevention is always better than cure. And last August 2023, when it was announced that we would remove the drug squads and community policing, that was very serious. And it's a pity you didn't make the same statement you made a minute ago then. Because that is exactly, we don't have a reinstated community policing unit in Wexford. But I can read out millions of pounds worth of seizures of drugs between Rosslare, on our coast. The MV Matthew last October, 157 million. Prevention of the drugs getting into the system. Use our naval service. We're badly resourcing it, but we still have €500 million worth of ships sitting on a quay wall with no personnel to man them. Why can't we join the dots? Why can't we? We're an island. The drugs have to come onto the island. I didn't need a lesson, Minister, in what drugs we're using. It's the effects and the antisocial behaviour of not being able to police it.
Thank you, Deputy.
80%, this is really important. 80% less drug searches are done because on Garda Síochána have to fill in 24 points of information. The policing isn't working. The policing authority needs restructuring.
Look, I take this matter extremely seriously. For all of us as TDs and representatives in our own area, we see the damage that drugs can do, okay, and do. What I'm saying to you here as well, you've referenced some specific points about Wexford with regard to policing resources. I've given you examples of where those community policing teams are now back in place. With regard to resourcing our naval service, you will know right now that government is embarking on a significant recruitment campaign for our naval service, where we have greatly improved the terms and conditions and pay for the women and men who will come into our defence forces and our naval service. That's important because we need more people that are there. Our customs teams, in relation to customs, you've mentioned drug seizures. All across our state agencies, they carry out really important work that are there. Are we going to stop every single drug shipment coming into the country? No country can do that either. Do we need to improve and increase our capacity to protect our coastline? Yes, and that's what we're doing. That's why we're embarking on the most significant recruitment in our naval service and in our defence forces right now.
Deputy Thomas Pringle, please.
From the defence forces.
Thomas Pringle.